Well, it's almost 48 hours since Pakistan proxies ambushed an army convoy in Poonch in Jammu and Kashmir's Poonch district. Since then, the largest search operation has been launched in Poonch and Rajouri. Internet has also been shut and 2 terrorists have been killed who were trying to infiltrate from the Akhnoor sector. We saw the terrorists using American M4 rifle yesterday, and today Pakistan set forests on fire reportedly across the LoC as well to help push terrorists. The Indian Army is leaving no stone unturned to hunt the terrorists down who were responsible for this. In fact, let's listen into this ground report that my colleague Ajay Jandial has sent us.
This is ground zero here in the Akhnoor sector, and this is the right of that location where Indian Army troops, they have foiled Pakistan's nefarious plan of pushing in terrorists over here. You could see that how these brave Indian Army Jawan, they are basically taking position and continuously foiling all the nefarious plan of Pakistan. Yesterday late in the night at around 9:30 to 10, these Indian Army troops, they have seen some suspicious movement of terrorist group, and immediately after they have suspected that group, the terrorists are trying to sneak inside this area. They immediately took position and started retaliating to the Pakistani infiltration attempt, and in just moment, in 1 to 2 hours of the firing, they have neutralized the terrorists, those who were basically trying to infiltrate through this side. You could see that they are the brave Indian Army soldiers, those who were eyeing on the Pakistan's movement. And just imagine, I would ask my camera person to show you the dense forest and thick vegetation here in the forward location where these Jawans were, they were deployed, and they have seen that some suspicious movement is taking place. And immediately after they have seen that suspicious movement, they have started, they opened fire and neutralized 2 terrorists, and 2 terrorists, they went back towards Pakistan side, and they were seen that they are, taking, special, they were getting supporting fire from the Pakistan side, and that's why they have been Indian Army, they have retaliated to the Indian Pakistani forces as well and foiled Pakistan's nefarious plan of pushing in terrorists over here. And we are reporting from the ground zero and showing that how brave Indian Army Jawans, they are continuously foiling all the nefarious plan of Pakistan and definitely saving the life of the civilians. These are the areas where they have been deployed in the forward locations. With Bunty D. Ajay Jandial, NewsX.
All right. Well, joining us at this point is Major General P.K. Sehgal, Strategic Affairs expert. Also with us is Major General A.K. Siwach, former Head of Territorial Army. Also joining us is Kuldeep Khoda, former DGP Jammu and Kashmir Police. Also with us is Major General Shashi Asthana, former Additional DG Infantry. Let me begin with you first, Major General Sehgal, on what you make of this absolute shocker. Clearly, Pakistan proxies and the Pakistani establishment using this opportunity to push through terrorists to continue to hound civilians in that entire Poonch area.
Absolutely and totally, this is Pakistan's intent to create chaos and mayhem in this area. They want to attract international attention, they want to attract media attention. While we have launched an all-out operation in Rajouri and Poonch to nab and or obliterate or assassinate all the terrorists in that area, it is very important that we modify our zero tolerance policy. We've got a zero tolerance policy within the valley. Now we've got to declare that we have a zero tolerance policy for any infiltration across the border. Wherever such infiltration takes place, we've got to let it be known to China and Pakistan and the world at large that India will respond very decisively in a very punitive manner. And unless and until we do that, the infiltration from across the border will not stop. And attempts to push in infiltrators will not stop. If you notice, even in this case, the ISI and the regular battalion of Pakistani army was involved. And hence it's a very, very essential that instead of only being defensive, because all the infiltration takes place within our country, they are creating a huge amount of casualties on our troops. People in the country are no longer willing to accept martyrdom of our troops off and on. The government will lose face. The credibility of the government will diminish to a very large extent. We've got to indicate to Pakistan in very clear terms that we will no longer accept this nonsense from them. We are not a banana republic. And we will hit all the terrorist training camps across. We know their coordinates. We don't even have to cross the border. We've got lots of varieties of options available today with the Air Force and the Army where without crossing the border, we are in a position to negate as many terrorist training camps as we want. And the earlier we do that, the better for the nation, better for Pakistan, and better for the peace and tranquility in this area. Because Pakistan will continue to do what they are doing unless and until we take very strong and punitive action across the border. It is high time that we do something similar to what happened after the attack on Pulwama and after the attack on Uri, where we had carried out a surgical strike across the border. And in both cases, it is the Indian DGMO who contacted the Pakistani DGMO and said, we've done this, the operation from our side has come to an end. It is once again very essential, because unless and until we do that, as we move closer towards the 2024 elections, Pakistan's mischief making, abetted and aided by China, will be on the increase. They will try their very best to diminish degrade the credibility of the Modi dispensation. And hence it's very important from the government point of view, from the armed forces point of view, from the national point of view, from the morale of the people, that India now sends a very clear message to the international community as well as to Pakistan and China that we will not accept this infiltration any longer. Its zero tolerance is no longer limited to within the valley. It is also any attempt to infiltrate terrorists into our territory.
Right. Let me, in fact, take that across to Major General Sivaj for his take on this operation as well, and also just describe the terrain a bit for our viewers, Major General Sivaj, since you know the area as well.
Yeah, Uday, as far as Rajouri Poonch area is concerned, where they have now opened a new front. Remember that this is the south of Pir Panjal. Earlier, the focus was on north of Pir Panjal in basically Kashmir Valley. But in last about 2-3 years, especially after abrogation of Article 370 and 35A, you find that terrorism has reduced considerably there. There used to be once upon a time 250 plus terrorists. As on today, the regular terrorists are left only 40-50. The leadership of Lashkar-e-Toba, Jaise Mohammed, Hizb al-Mujahideen have been completely wiped off from Kashmir Valley. And now the peace is prevailing there. Now the focus of the ISI and the terrorists is now shifted from north of Pir Panjal to south of Pir Panjal. Now the point why it is shifted is 2-3 reasons. One is that when the Galwan has taken place, when the Chinese have come in the eastern Ladakh, then this area was totally peaceful. From 2001, by 2011 it was declared that it is a totally terrorist-free area. So the troops were also moved from here. Now this gave the opportunity to the Pakistani and ISI. And as it is, there are about 4,000 to 5,000 terrorists which were fighting in Afghanistan and also equipped with the modern weapon left by the Americans are in POJK. Now they have been pushed on the launch pad. There are about 300 terrorists sitting. They want to send more terrorists through Rajouri, Poonch and Surankot area. Now this area has a tremendous advantage vis-a-vis. One is it is a forested area. Second thing, the terrain is difficult, it is mountainous. Third, which is very important, is there are natural caves. Earlier, terrorists used to be dependent on the villagers for their logistic sustenance. Not now. The logistic sustenance is with them only. They have now beefed up in the caches with weapon, ammunition and all. They only need the support of the people, especially when the drones have been sent by ISI by sending the weapon, ammunition. That is what has been brought by this OGW and sleeper cell as well as the intelligence. So therefore, this area is become a hotbed of the terrorism, and Pakistan will try to activate that. It will try to send maximum terrorists. And the second very important point is, as the winter starts and January, February and up till 15 March, the passes get closed as far as north of Pir Panjal, Shamshabad is concerned. But here, the snowfall is hardly anything and the passes remain open here. So the terrorists will keep on entering here. As it is, the news is that there are about 25 to 30 hardcore foreign trained terrorists which are there in Poonch Rajouri area, and since the forest area are connected with each other, it becomes very difficult. The another strategy with the terrorists have changed is, earlier in Kashmir Valley we were fighting more in the basically in urban area and rural area and built up area, but now they are trying to attract you there on the mountains and the forested area where they enjoy a sort of immunity as well as advantage. So therefore, one has to be very, very careful. The point which has been brought out, I fully agree that now the response has to be robust from our side. It can't be reactive. It has to be proactive. No, there is no meaning of having a ceasefire with Pakistan in case they are sending terrorists and covering fire from their post. We should neutralize that post by making a fire base, which we used to make it about 5-7 years back. The second thing which is there is we have got a complete knowledge of their basically launch pad also in training area. We, as General Sagar was telling, we have a weapon system both in Army, Air Force, whether Rafale, Scalp missile, we have got also drones, we can neutralize. A time has come that you have to pay back to the Pakistani, that make it very costly for them, that in case you try to send terrorists this side, you will be punished. And this has been done on the behest of the Chinese, because the Chinese are feeling the heat of those 3 divisions which are sitting in Eastern Ladakh, which are better trained, more motivated, and they are feeling that it has becoming a pain for Chinese. Therefore, the Chinese have given advice to the Pakistani to activate this area so that we pull down our troops from Eastern Ladakh and bring it in Rajouri Poonch area. So overall, this is the strategy which Pakistan will do. But as far as India is concerned, no more, you can say, reactive strategy, proactive strategy, hit Pakistani where it hurt. And I fully agree, as the election will come very close in 2024, you will find the activity will be increasing. And so is the Pakistani election. It can be ISI and Pakistan Army will try to create a situation wherein they want to tell to their own people the relationship between India and Pakistan are not to the best. Maybe they want to postpone their election also. This can be also one of the reasons. But overall, one has to be very active. In last 2 years, in this operation, we have lost almost about 20-25 brave hearts in this area. So our strategy has to be changed. Another very important issue is that the OGW and sleeper cell, there is a Gujar population here. It never used to be a OGW and sleeper cell, but of late it has been seen there is a percentage of local populace which is becoming OGW and sleeper cell. We have to isolate them and neutralize them. I think that is what we are doing. NAIA is already cooperating with the Indian Army. So overall, I can say, Uday, time has come to pay back the Pakistani on the same coin, which they are trying to now in cash.
All right. Let me, in fact, take that to Kuldeep Khoda as well. Kuldeep, what are the challenges, in this search operation that are being faced? And, as far as the infiltration attempts are concerned, does it surprise you that they are continuing unabated, even actually in quite the cold season of December now, because normally this happens perhaps just before the winter season approaches, isn't it?
Absolutely. Uday, the response has to be quite hard, and the enemy has to be hit where it hits them the hardest. The measures have been elaborated by previous 2 speakers, and I would like to repeat them because they have very valid points. But the emphasis is on the external response and our internal response. Now, these incidents have been repeated quite frequently, and we have lost over 20 brave soldiers during last 1 year, which includes 8 para special forces also, who are specially trained, highly trained commandos. And this doesn't augur well, and unfortunately our responses have not changed despite these incidents, and several of them now, during the last 1 year especially. Now the external response is, as I mentioned, that it has to be a calibrated response. We don't have to have any knee-jerk response. We have to see how we gain the best militarily, economically, diplomatically, and politically. Now that is for the leadership, both army leadership and the political leadership, to take a call on that. And I'm sure that the concern must be working on that, and an adequate response and a hard response will follow. About the internal thing, unfortunately, we don't see much of the things happening despite so many killings. And the pattern has been almost similar in all these killings. Now, like in this incident also, 2 vehicles were moving in QRT in response to a situation where some troops had to be sent at some place where the operation was going on. Now, never in a QRT is it less than 3 vehicles. Now, I'm surprised of how in this area where incidents have been taking place frequently, non-bulletproof vehicles were moving. There are adequate number of bulletproof vehicles, and wherever there are no bulletproof vehicles, I remember the initial days of terrorism where the BP vehicles were hardly available. The local units would go for improvisation by fixing the wooden logs inside to prevent the bullet piercing the vehicle, and putting in some steel sheets also locally in their own workshops. That was something which was going on regularly, and now we don't have much dearth of the BP vehicles. Still, we find the two vehicles were moving, which was surprising, and they were not non-bulletproof vehicles. And then, we had a similar situation in early 2000 when we had height of militancy. In 2002, 2020 terrorists were killed. That was the situation in those years. And we had Hill Kaka, which was heavily infested, much more than what is happening now in Poonch Rajouri. And Operation Sarpanas was launched under the direct supervision of Corps. But here, Corps level intervention is not warranted, though supervision will be there of the Corps commander and the army commander also. But at least at a brigade level, some coordination has to be there. Some concerted operations have to be launched. And in this winter season also, the foliage is less compared to the summer season. The visibility is more. This is the ideal time when the operations can be undertaken with huge advantage to us. That response has to be, that should come. And there have to be coordinated operations with the 15 Corps also, because the terrorists, if they are under pressure, as we have seen in the past, they will try to move to the northern side of the Kiri Panchal. So the coordinated operation with 15 Corps has to be launched from this side to get on the terrorists and eliminate them from this region totally. So, they pumping up more troops of course is required, because this area is heavily thinned now. More than that, if you see all these incidents, it points to a certain location along the LoC where most likely the infiltration is taking place, and that's the Thana Mandi area. Because if you see, the incidents have been taking place, which gives to a common point of a common area of infiltration. And we have to see how more anti-infiltration measures can be taken along the LoC, particularly in this region. And today, one more dimension has got added. I am reminded of the similar incident happening in 2010 in Machil, when 3 dead bodies of civilians were recovered. And later on, it led to huge inquiry and it was the beginning of the unrest of 2010. Now, that time we had a political leadership, and that also fanned the sentiments of the people, and it resulted in a huge agitation, which lasted for several months. This time we may not expect so, but certainly the recovery of 3 civilians today who were among the 8 people who had been taken for questioning. Now, this is going to add another dimension. Though government has taken quick measures in this regard, they have provided compensation to the families, and they have given job to the next of the kin of these 3 families. But I know how the local situation erupts because of these incidents, and these sorts of incidents should not happen. We have to be very disciplined in our approach while handling the people in operations. It's very sad that we lose our officers, brave officers. But it doesn't mean that we have to take our anger on the civilians. That's very important, and that's something is amiss in our handling of the situation in this area. So I'm sure that army leadership will be quite concerned about it, and they should take some measures immediately in this regard now.
All right, let me take that across to Major General Shashi Asthana as well for his take. Major General Shashi Asthana, on the operation currently, the way Pakistan and their proxies plan this, and now the revenge and retribution that must follow.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think my co-panelists have covered a lot. Let me, without repeating what they have said, try and address some issues. Firstly is the pattern and the trend. If you recall, in Kashmir, we had established a very good CT grid, that is counter-terrorism grid, with fair amount of troop density, intelligence, police information, and everything working in synergy. So therefore, the terrorists were finding it difficult to work in Kashmir. And therefore, new areas were explored. Now, when we talk of the Rajouri sector, the advantage is that firstly, the troop density was low, which has been brought out. Secondly, this area, the the infiltration routes, they do not get blocked by snow. And therefore, that is another advantage. The disadvantage of this area was that the local population was not with the terrorists. And therefore, a fair amount of expectation which I have is that some of the OGWs from Kashmir Valley may also have been moved in this area, which needs to be investigated. And I am sure this lead, the NIA and others would also like to follow that. The second issue is regarding the pattern of the intake of the terrorists. There are the kind of economic situation which is going on in Pakistan. There are fair amount of takers who feel terrorism as a job and which gives fair amount of money. And we are given to understand that some of the retired military personals or ex-servicemen of Pakistan, they have also fallen prey that it is a good, shall I say, part-time job to undertake to get this. And therefore, that's another angle where they have tried to exploit a new front and exploit the capabilities. Thirdly, let me put this, taking off from one of the speakers who said officers' casualties. In Indian Army, the officers lead from the front. And we are proud of the fact that the ratio of the officers' casualty versus the troops' casualties is highest in the world. And this goes to the credibility of the Indian Army. And that is because they are leading from the front. So therefore, I don't think we should get perturbed with that. Fourthly, regarding the response, as has been brought out, I'm sure that the officers who are in uniform now, they must be working out the response, and the response will follow. The timing, the methodology, let's leave it to the wisdom of the current generation of the officers and the leaders. I'm sure they will work it out appropriately. What is more important in this area is that firstly, we need to look at the sympathizers, and therefore I think this initiative of NIA moving there and now trying to perhaps work out as to who could be the sympathizers, that needs to be more. Similarly, we also need to look at a similar kind of CT grid being established. Now, when I say CT grid, that means the grid of the troops, intelligence, local informers, and the police. This is a complete grid which we did beautifully there, but it will take some time because this area was dormant earlier, but now this area has become active for quite some time now, and I'm sure that kind of activity must be on somewhere else. Similarly, let's remember, Pakistan is a low-value nuisance creator for China. And China is a high-value security guarantor for Pakistan. And therefore, when China feels the heat and when China wants that if the Indian clout is growing and if India is rising, obviously there must be certain disturbances which must be caused. Also, after the Supreme Court's direction or the decision on 370, I think Pakistan is feeling as a case of lost opportunity in a manner that all the politicians who are in the valley who used to support them, now they will be much lesser, shall I say, inclined to take their cause, which is quite evident that after these casualties happened, we found that some of the politicians who never used to condemn the terror attack have started condemning. So therefore, I think they are also coming in line. So there is a level of insecurity of the cause which Pakistan Army was trying to propagate, and they feel that this may go down. Similarly, the way we have showcased in G20 Kashmir, that is not to the comfort of China, for the simple reason because even China has fair amount of stakes in Kashmir, maybe in Gilgit-Baltistan and also in some of the POJK areas. So therefore, all in all, their effort will certainly be to activate this front. And not only this front, it will be also the IB sector, which we are talking about Akhnoor and below. So therefore, that is being guarded by the BSF and a little bit
Yes.
some more synergy between the paramilitary forces who are at the borders
Okay.
and army will have to be taken into account and will have to be improved. I am sure people are working on it. People who are concerned and who are in position to work on it.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.